What I would now like to do is say a special word of introduction to His Excellency Ambassador Zygimantas Pavilionis, who is currently the Ambassador of Lithuania to the United States, a position which he has held since 2010. Ambassador Pavilionis joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1993 and was instrumental in helping Lithuania achieve accession into NATO as well as the European Union. Between 1993 and 2009, he held various high-level positions in the ministry, mostly focused on Lithuania's relationship with the European Union. Most recently, Ambassador Pavilionis worked as Ambassador-at-Large and Chief Coordinator for Lithuania's presidency of the Community of Democracies, as well as Chief Coordinator for the Transatlantic Cooperation and Security Policy Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His lecture topic today, Lithuania's Story: Smart and Proud Power Can Win. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a very, very warm welcome for His Excellency, Ambassador Pavilionis. Thank you.
Okay. Well, hello. It's a late hour. Sorry to keep you busy. Well, my story is kind of Nordic way of telling more or less the same what was said by my friend Slovenian ambassador, though of course with its own differences and angles. So I will try to tell it quickly and effectively. So let's start with our history. We had big and proud history of 1,000 years. As you see this green spot, it's our empire that was not so small. It was from Baltic to Black Sea, as John Paul II, the Pope, was calling it once. It was the beginning of European Union. Why? Because it was a place with very different cultures, where the different religions, where different languages that coexisted together. Those are the facts. As you see, we've been speaking a lot of languages in this great territory. It was the center of Judaism. It was the center of Lithuanian and Polish culture, of all Slavic cultures and all other cultures. And they've been living all together. And some of the experiments are quite interesting, like I would say ecumenism of the Catholic Church of today started in Lithuania, where our knights, actually pagan knights then, were trying to create some kind of community between Orthodox faith and Catholic faith, and they managed to create some kind of united church somewhere between Belarus and Ukraine. And that tradition lately was used by the Catholic Church in speaking with all other religions. So that was the story. Well, after all those stories, we've been wiped out from the map by two totalitarian regimes, fascism and communism. Communism especially, that was keeping us occupied for 50 years. But this is a story about our survival, how we did it, what are the lessons learned, and how do we kind of continue. So after the war, we've been kind of hidden behind the Cold War, Cold Wall, and that's why our story is not so much known for the West. We had guerrilla war, partisan war with Soviets. Actually, during the most harsh years of the regime, during Stalinist regime, about 100,000 people, more or less all of them killed, but resistance was so important. It was done by the community and also by the church that was so much helping us. So the civil society resisted. It was sad resistance, but every family was kind of transmitting it to their kids and future generations. So that battle was lost. Though we continued, and I represent an embassy that was once called Ghost Embassy in Washington. That's one of the oldest embassies on the 16th Street. Actually, only Polish embassy is older. But our diplomats, having no state, no money, no resources, they've been for 50 years living in that building that was called an embassy, pretending that we have a state, just with our flag. And the same story was happening in London and Holy See in Vatican. So free three places in the world where we were trying to keep the resistance up. Well, and of course, American policy. As you see here, Reagan, together with Lithuanians, actually it's in Market Park in Chicago, we have about 1 million of those who continue to think that their roots are from Lithuania. And of course, American policy of non-recognition of our occupation was very important, symbolically. Though we lost different battles in Lithuania with those totalitarian regimes, but the support was great and important. So looking around to different similar stories today, even if it seems that you lost your battle, but if you have the symbolic support, sometimes it really helps. That happened when all those democratic transitions started in Soviet Union. We were first to revolt. We were first to say thank you very much, Gorbachev, for your reforms. We just need freedom. He sent tanks. We had some people killed, but finally we won. You see also the pictures of people, standing hand in hand across 3 Baltic states, actually. And I have here former U.S. ambassador to Estonia. So we've been all, Lithuanians, Latvians, and Estonians just standing in front this totalitarian regime and demanding freedom. And that happened. We were first to get it. And this is another picture when Soviets sent tanks. We get into the parliament, and it was kind of civil resistance. We were just standing in front of those little ugly Soviet tanks, and they simply understood that they cannot crush us. As one of the American journalists was then describing the story, the Soviets simply understood that they have insufficient number of bullets to kill all Lithuanians that are simply standing in front of them. And that was the point of our moral victory, and we understood that we can win. And actually, I'm standing now in National Public Radio office. Is one of the journalists making those stories was your journalist in Moscow that we so much remember. So a lot of journalists were also helping us from America, if speaking about the soft powers, not only congressmen that came. So afterwards, we had a success story of 14 years of transformation, hard and difficult. I was working myself like kind of deputy chief negotiator for accession to European Union. It was tough and difficult because we had to change every centimeter of our country. It was very difficult, but actually we are happy that it finally went through. So what about the lessons that we learned? So whatever is happening, you have to strengthen the civil society, your national and religious identity, because all those powers that try to crush you, and if you are small, they always try, they're not able to resist the power of human spirit that we have. So we have to train that spirit. Even right now, having just 3 million people in Lithuania and having 1 million here and in different other places around, we launched a so-called program like Global Lithuania. We try to communicate with them, with all our immigrants. We try to raise the spirit. And just some figures. Just in America, we have about 100 Catholic Lithuanian churches. We have 26 basketball teams in Chicago. We're very good in basketball. We used it well. Actually, that's a virus that we got from Chicago back to Lithuania. It's another story, but still, through basketball, through dances, you see the strange picture in the left. It's a picture of a big World Lithuanian Dance Festival that once was happening and will happen actually this Sunday in Boston. So Boston will be totally occupied by thousands of Lithuanians just dancing. Strange. And I will be dancing as well. But this is the way we keep the spirit up. Another lesson learned that we have to continue fight for our minds. Americans were great to support us through Voice of America, through different programs, but there is kind of strange feeling in the West that when we acceded to all those big organizations, that's the end, that's the happy hour starting. But this is not the way. We have some other countries around who are trying to undermine the spirit and trying to influence it. You have strange construction in front. It's called the Moscow House that some people build in Vilnius. It's not the end when you get it free. This this have to continue, and we always speak with our American friends, with our European friends. This fight for heart and minds should continue, because that's not the end. So what are the lessons learned? We have to invest into our brains. We have nothing else, just it. And if we speak about human soul, it has to be educated. So we have a lot of universities, and we try to stress that line as much as we can. As you see, we have about 40% of the people with highest education between 25 and 34, and that's even more than EU average, because that's the only way we can survive. We need to learn languages, and then we can do it. We need to invest into innovations. You have to be the most competitive, so you have to get the best technologies. We have it in Nordic countries, we have it somewhere in Silicon Valley, so you have to hunt for them and apply it. And that actually works, especially if you are small. It's very easy to install the best computer if you are small, to compare with big nations. So in some cases we are top of the world, like having biggest number of operating cells. We have 5 million operating cells in Lithuania when we have just 3 million people. So you can imagine what is the number. Every kid has a cell. Interesting. So this is the way we try to move. Well, of course, economy all the time. Economy should run well. So when everybody is now in crisis in Europe, we grow and we are happy together with other Baltic states, and we just, we transformed ourselves each day, and we continue to do it. And that's one of the answers we had. We continue to kind of make in different kind of innovations and reforms in our energy sector, but that's maybe more regional, maybe not so much important for other countries. We're still dependent on energy, and we would like to get rid of that dependency through building different things like nuclear reactors with Americans and Japanese, Hitachi and GE, through different LNGs and shale gases. So we just want to be dependent in energy, because energy is another tool of dependency today, another tool to make your spirit down if necessary. What are other lessons? And here I very much share what my friend from Slovenia was telling. We invest very much into human dignity, human rights, into different regional and global organizations. Well, you have different examples of it. Some time ago, we started in the region with some kind of neighborhood group trying to join EU and NATO, and we managed. It was called Vilnius 10. We are very active in different peacekeeping operations in the world. I was personally chairing a Community of Democracy, nice organization of more than 100 democracies of the world, where we try to promote human dignity, human rights, women's rights, and Secretary Clinton, just because of it, was twice in Vilnius, in my capital, last year. I'm really happy about. Also last year we've been presiding over another Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Okay, 56 states, more of Eastern Hemisphere, but kind of doing the same, building the civil society, trying to fight for human rights, because that's the guarantee for us to survive. Now we are chairing small Nordic-Baltic cozy region, but next year we will be first time in our history chairing the big European Union of 500 million people. Just being free, it's a challenge. So I agree with Ambassador of Slovenia. You have to be very active international in order to survive and fight for good, of course. Well, and maybe last lesson that I want to share: whenever we will be trying to chair the European Union next year, we will try to kind of expand as much as possible that area of freedom that we've got already in our countries. It's called Eastern Partnership, so European Union has kind of neighborhood ring. They try to expand it, they try to transform those countries as using the experiences we have. So we will try to push it east as much as we can with all challenges ahead. Of course, pushing south as much as we can, having different kind of dialogues, and also pushing actually to transatlantic direction, because we have idea that we have to deepen our transatlantic links as well, from economy to people-to-people relations. So, in case you are impressed by that transformation, come to Vilnius. It's nice and beautiful. It's city of churches. Especially in summertime, it's really better than Washington. It's not so hot and humid. So please come. That's all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We'd now like to invite questions and comments from you about Lithuania, or also the perspectives that the ambassador shared on soft power. Who would like to go first? Yeah, okay, please.
Is Lithuania as a country a uniform country in terms of no division based upon, let's say, ethnic groups or things like that happen in some other, even tiny countries? And what's the population of Lithuania? Those are my two tiny questions.
Yeah. Well, we are kind of homogeneous. We have more than 80% Lithuanians and more than 80% Catholic. But at the same time, we have national minorities of Poles and Russians, of Jews and Belarusians. Well, even from Middle Ages, we have a lot of other religions still. Old believers from Russia, expelled by Tsars, actually, still live in our territories. Tatars and Karims. I have myself kind of strange branch of Tatar blood because Tatars were one of our knights of kind of warriors of the knights that we've been using for some time. So I would say this multicultural aspect of our country, it's most important one, and well, kind of personal lesson that I think is important for Lithuania. Whenever we go narrow and national only, we face different kind of problems. Whenever we expand our identity and we build bridges to other nations and especially other religions, we thrive and we continue. And I think this is the key to the region, but not only to the region. So that multicultural and multidimensional aspect of our identity was something that was saving us for hundreds of years. Our not so small empire was living for 500 years. And that was one of the most liberal and free place in the world, because it was by the end of 18th century, learning from Americans, actually copying their own constitution, we introduced most liberal and first written constitution in that territory of empire. And immediately after 3 years, we've been occupied by 3 more autocratic empires who kind of discontinued our existence because of freedom virus that was so much spreading from America. So, and then we had different very national and very narrow stories that were usually finishing in a very sad way. So you have to broaden your identity, and then peace is coming.
One more, okay, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ozzy Romeo, Faculty, Arizona State University. Your Excellency, Ambassador of Lithuania in the United States, thank you for your distinguished mission in the US. First of all, my question is, before giving my questions, I want to say I was really impressed and happy to hear that you in Lithuania are focusing on human rights, human dignity as a fundamental principle of development. And I would like to ask, what are the perspectives of the youth in your country, or how do you see the role of your country in the European Union or in East Europe, Eastern Europe? And also, the next question would be, what is the policy in terms of bilateral or multilateral cooperation? What is and how Lithuania is envisioning cooperating with other countries or playing a role in this globalization? Thank you.
Well, it's a very difficult and complex question. I would say, we feel old because of that kind of burden of history. We feel like a generation of post-Second World War, kind of sometimes lost generation. But on the other hand, I feel that this burden of history gets us a bit wiser. And that's why I really believe that we can make a kind of added value inside European Union. That's why we stress human dignity. That's why we stress human rights, because we've been living for too long without those rights. And we understood that only through this way you can fight those regimes. And that's why I was reading Reagan diaries, and when he saw John Paul II visiting Poland, he started then cry, and it was an emotional moment, and he understood that actually this is the way he can defeat the Soviets, through human spirit. Because mostly all autocratic or totalitarian regimes, they are inhuman. They fight the human dignity in order to keep the power. So we have to strengthen it. And I think, well, it's still the beginning of what we can do. We did something in our cozy Nordic Baltic region. It's now getting stability around. We are not a problem. We are a problem-solving region. But we still have a lot of nations who are living now in slavery in our own region. Let's take Russia itself, that suffered the most from totalitarian regime, including communist. Ukraine still suffering. But as I try to underline, it's not only our own region. I was really happy to work with, with countries from Latin America, from Africa, and Asia speaking democracy. Because after Lithuanians, now Mongolian chairmanship, so we helped them to build kind of policies in their own region, because, well, we are all humans, and we have to take care about our human dignity whenever and under whatever circumstances we are. And when we work together, we can be really strong, because it's when you belong to different organizations, you have different experience. But when you sit together around the table and you try to think what can exactly you do when you use it together, the synergy that is born is really strong. It's kind of amazing. And we just need to communicate about that. Because those who try to fight the human dignity, they cooperate well. They have the best means and instruments and long-term projects, because they don't have democracy, They have plans for 20, 30 years. And they use resources in a way they want. We cannot do it in democracies. That's why we have to sit and speak together. And we can do a lot. We did it. We revolted inside the Soviet Union, and now we are happy. And we want to share it, this experience of fighting those regimes as much as we can.
Okay, well, on that note, I'd ask everyone to please join in expressing our sincere gratitude to His Excellency, Ambassador Pavilionis. Thank you.